Welcome to Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast, your podcast dedicated to all things Animal Crossing. Episode 114 is brought to you by Fraser Connell, one of our newest Patreon patrons. Today, Sergio and I are joined by Pete Imbesi, multimedia editor for Loot Pots and host of Potscast. We'll be getting to know his history with Animal Crossing, his thoughts on New Horizons, and of course, answering the most recent 100-day countdown to New Horizons questions. So to begin, hello Sergio, how you doing?
Hi Chu, I'm doing pretty great. It's been a really good week. What about yourself?
I'm doing great. And then Pete, nice to see you, nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I've been a listener of Potscast for a long time, and yeah, I really enjoy your show and all the things that you do over at Loot Pots.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Yeah, I know you're a real active member of the Discord. It's always great hearing from you, and I'm glad that we could finally make this happen. I'm always excited to talk about Animal Crossing, and we don't get to talk about it nearly as much as I'd like to on the Potscast. So
yeah,
I'm so ready to get into the nitty gritty with you two.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you and Steve to really just like go all out Animal Crossing pretty soon. I'm sure that's going to happen.
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, once March rolls around, I think that's all we're going to be talking about for quite some time, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Nice. Yeah, what I love about the game is just like, it's a daily type of game. You play it for a long time, so it just keeps coming up in conversation once it's out.
Oh, yeah. I think one of the things that I am excited about New Horizons is that it looks like it's a little bit more, that it kind of allows you to play for longer portions than I think we're probably used to. But that was something I really, really dug about New Leaf, was just playing it like on my lunch break at work every day, like going out during the summer, sitting outside in the sun, playing a little bit of Animal Crossing. Very, very beautiful.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun when it happens. So I guess before we get too far into this, I actually wanted you to give us like a little bit of background about yourself, all the things you do throughout the internet, because I mean, I listed a couple, but I'm sure there's so much more out there.
Yeah, I'm all over the place on the web. So if you guys don't know me, I'm Pete Imbesi. I'm a content creator. You can find me at @loud_Pete on Twitter and Instagram. As Chewy already called out, I am the multimedia editor over at Loot Pots, as well as the host of our weekly Nintendo podcast, the Potscast, where we talk about what we've been playing. We talk about the news, all kinds of, the stuff you generally get on a Nintendo fan podcast. Our site, lootpots.com, we do news and reviews. You might have actually seen our name recently because we broke the story about BioShock coming to Nintendo Switch. That ended up getting picked up by like every games outlet out there, which was pretty crazy. We were thankful that the servers didn't blow up that day. But beyond that, I'm also the host of a weekly comic book podcast called The Comics Pals. I also make a little bit of music. You can go check out my band, Keep the Money. It's at Keep the Money PA on Twitter and Instagram. And I also, I'm all over the place doing stuff. So the easiest way to keep up with me and check out some of the stuff I'm doing is to just go follow me on Twitter. I'm always plugging what I'm doing over there.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd forgotten about the music thing, but then I remembered we'd talked about this before, and I kind of told you about my plans to eventually start a ska band called Ska Pilgrim.
Yes, and I am such a supporter of that idea. Everyone should go start a ska band.
Yes, especially one called Ska Pilgrim.
Yeah, that makes it even better.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of cool stuff. So I guess I did want to know kind of like, what does a multimedia editor for Loot Pots do? Like, what does that entail?
So I'm basically the creative lead for all of our multimedia content. So like I, along with Steve, was the creator of the Potscast, and obviously I host that show and put it together. I also spearheaded the creation of our Patreon exclusive show, After Dark, which if you go and support us over at the $5 level, you get access to that show, and it's like a off-topic kind of, just nonsense, talking about what's going on in our lives, talking about, Pixel and I just recently did a review of Netflix's The Witcher. Sometimes I'll pull DJ, who's the editor of the Potscast, on the show and just like ask him questions from dating websites, and it's like goofy stuff like that. And I edit some portion of our YouTube videos, as well as like kind of help some of the other contributors get their ideas off the ground. Like Max, who is one of the the people over on the Loot Pots team. His most recent video was something that I collaborated with him on and did about I edited the whole thing. I helped him kind of like turn his feature script into a actual video product that we could get up on YouTube, which was a ton of fun. The only thing in that realm that I don't really like have my hands on is when Pixel goes away for like 2 weeks and makes one of his crazy 45-minute analysis videos. That's all him. I can't take any credit for that.
Yeah. I've seen the Zelda ones and all of the like Pokemon ones
Right.
too, and they're pretty cool. But yeah, speaking of Pokemon, I know you do some reviews as well. You reviewed recently Pokemon Sword and Shield.
I did.
And I've got to tell you, Sergio is obsessed with these games.
It's always great to meet a fellow Pokemon master.
Yeah. I've always been a big Pokemon fan. I take them pretty slow these days now because I'm like, I've been playing Pokemon my whole life, so it's not something that I need to down all in one sitting, but It's definitely something that I'm like, I take it at my own pace. I'm finally at the league, so I've got my 8 badges. I'm sitting outside just waiting to beat it now.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan of like competitive Pokemon. I don't know if you do that at all, Sergio, but that's like really where I live. And I've been really lazy though. Like I was so excited to get into the metagame for Gen 8 here, and I got my 6 IV International Ditto. I'm all ready for breeding and everything, and then I was just like, I'm gonna go play God of War. Like I'm gonna go do something else, and I don't know. I've been lazy about getting in there and doing the nitty gritty, but I've just been playing a little bit of Pokemon Showdown, which is this browser based like Pokemon battle simulator that a lot of competitive people use to like test out their teams. So I'm still there. I'm still playing Pokemon. I'm still like getting my head around who I want to throw on my actual team and put in the work for. But I've definitely been slacking a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool. So where are you in the Pokemon craze right now, Sergio?
Well, honestly, right now I'm just waiting for the DLC. I completed the Live Index. I don't do much competitive, but this was my first time going for a Live Index, and it was a journey. Actually, my first playthrough of Sword, I only played with one Scorbunny. I didn't let him evolve. It was a nice challenge. I love the journey.
Very nice.
Yeah. Cool. So we actually wanted to get a little bit of your background, Pete, on Animal Crossing. So to start, like, when did you first start playing Animal Crossing?
So I started with the original Animal Crossing. Well, not technically the original, I suppose, because this is a real fan podcast. So I know you guys know all about Animal Farm. But I started with Animal Crossing on the GameCube when it first came to the States. So I must have been... What year did Animal Crossing come out?
I think it was 2002.
2002, yeah, right? I think is accurate. So I must have been I was born in 1992, so I was 10 when it came out. And I remember like grabbing the box that came with the special memory card that had the Rover sticker on it and everything, because it took up an entire memory card's worth of data to have your town. And I remember that like blew my mind. That really was my first entry point, and I immediately got sucked into it from there. And I've been a fan since. Although I did kind of take a break during the City Folk era because, man, I didn't like that game.
Oh, yeah. We'll probably have to talk about that pretty good, too. So I guess, like, when you first played, what was it that got you hooked onto the game?
I think one of the things that always really appealed to me about games in general when I was a kid was a little bit of wish fulfillment and kind of giving me a sense of like agency and power, So in Animal Crossing, obviously that's not like physical power or anything like that, but having the ability to be like, oh, like this is my house and I'm going to decide what it looks like and what's going to be here and how I'm going to spend my time. And, I can work to get this money to spend it however I want. And those are all things when you're a kid that feel super novel and super,
Right.
like, again, like give you this sense of power, like, oh, I have the agency in this world, And and doing it in a way that was, not focused on combat or something like that was different than most games I had played before. I don't recall if I had tried Harvest Moon yet at that point, so it might have been the first time that I ever played a game that really had that kind of where it was still gamified, where there were still goals for you to achieve, but they weren't through just killing things or winning battles or whatever. And
right.
yeah, it fired a very different kind of neuron for me, and even then I knew that I liked that kind of game, and I ended up checking out more stuff like I said, like Harvest Moon or The Sims or whatever, that were more of those slice of life kind of games, or even like getting into like sim games and stuff like that, like City Sims and more, spreadsheety kind of games like that. Like Animal Crossing was a huge gateway for stuff like that for me.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And that's you're 10 years old. That's a really good age to start to feel that too. Because I feel like that's the point where you're starting to understand there's like this thing called responsibilities. Like your parents are trying to prepare you because they're like, oh man, this kid's going to be a teenager and they are doomed.
Right. And yeah, I feel like that was probably around when I first started having like an allowance and stuff like that, and like had like I had a concept of money, and it was like, oh, like wouldn't it be great if I could just run errands or whatever and have as much money as I wanted?
Yeah. And I do really like that about the game, where it's just like, it presents you these, menial tasks throughout the day that you can do. And then you start to learn that earns you these bells, and those bells can be traded. And it really just helps your understanding of like, oh, here's how like just basic economics tends to work. Like you get something and you can trade that thing for another something that you may want a little bit more,
Yeah, and it taught me the value of the gig economy, which unfortunately I feel like America took a little too seriously, but okay.
We've taken it too far now. We've got side hustles during our side hustles, for sure. So I guess now that we know that you've started essentially from the beginning, what is your favorite Animal Crossing game so far?
I still think it's the original, because I think that in a lot of ways, there's a lot of innovation that's come with some of the new iterations, but I miss some of the more like nitty gritty stuff that was in the original. Like I don't love as much how they've kind of like gotten away from some of the regional holidays in favor of stuff that they don't need to localize as much, know? And I think those were events that made, I think especially at the time, right, in 2002, that made the world of Animal Crossing feel so alive, was that like there was a reason to play it on Christmas morning, even if it wasn't a new game, that there was a reason to go play it around Halloween and have all these different experiences. And in some ways, some of those things have survived, but I also think that like some of that has kind of gotten rounded out a bit in favor of, making something that's a little bit more globally friendly, and that's like saves them a little bit of time and energy, I think, when it comes to making it work region to region. And I totally respect the design choice behind that, but I do miss that kind of like deep connection to the calendar that it felt like it used to have.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, like, Wild World pretty much let go of, like, all of those different types of holidays, and then replace them with, like, Animal Crossing specific ones.
Right.
Which I think, to some extent, I think they're still cool and everything, and I do like them sticking around, but definitely getting that balance between here's this just like quirky world of Animal Crossing and something that only exists here, and then here's something that just matches up with your real life too. And I feel like those connect you both to the game and also to just your personal life when you're playing the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's not as though the difference of those things makes the game like worse or something like that in a super measurable way, but it is a little flavor that I think I miss quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess my next question is, have you played any of the spin-off games?
I have not.
Okay.
I guess, do you count Pocket Camp a spin-off? Because then I've played that.
I guess, yeah, a bit. I'd say so.
Yeah, I never touched Happy Home Designer or Amiibo Festival. I just didn't really have much interest in either of them. You know, like I didn't want to get in on the cards, and I just didn't. You know, I was kind of like, like I like Animal Crossing, but I like Animal Crossing, not as much. I want to play games that feature Animal Crossing characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. So I guess based on your experience with Pocket Camp, like how did you feel about that game?
I really liked Pocket Camp for what it was. I think my biggest problem with it was I felt like when I first started playing, it felt like there was a ton to do. And eventually it was kind of like I hit a wall where I know that they've added stuff since I stopped playing, but by that point I'm kind of already out, you know? Right. And there was never really a reason for me to go back to it. So I just, I never really... I enjoyed it while I enjoyed it, and then I don't really think about it anymore. So I don't feel like that's the most successful thing that it could be, but I also feel like for what it was aiming to do as like kind of mobilifying the Animal Crossing formula, I think it did do a good job, and I definitely enjoyed it for what it was while I was into it, while I wanted like something to tide me over for more actual Animal Crossing. Unfortunately, that wait ended up being quite a bit longer, so I've just been struggling.
Yeah, us too. But yeah, no, I think you're capturing exactly what I like tell people when they're asking about Pocket Camp, because there are a bunch of people who are like, mobile gaming isn't for everybody. I've recently tried to be more active playing like Nintendo's mobile games. Like I've been keeping up with Mario Kart Tour. I log into Fire Emblem Heroes a lot more, and Pocket Camp I've kind of kept up with from the beginning. But what I tell people about Pocket Camp is like, when it started out, it was pretty bare bones. I'd say now there's a lot more to it. And so I'm like, if you're starting Pocket Camp right now, I really think you're going to get a lot of game out of it in the next few months if you're wanting to wait for like new horizons, because it's like it's packed with things. But if you've played from the beginning like me, there's really just not too much there anymore. But yeah, no, I think anybody who hasn't started the game, like, definitely try it out, because there's a lot to do there. There's a lot more than you'd expect from other mobile games, I think. Cool. So I guess just some real quick general questions. I'm sure, there's one not on here that I think Sergio will want to ask a little bit later, but we'll get to that. But who is your favorite special character? And I guess the ones that we consider special characters are kind of like the Tom Nooks and Isabels of the world.
Sure. For me, it's got to be KK Slider.
Yes.
He is just
awesome.
He is so unbelievably cool. And I remember from the first time I saw him, I was like, well, he's just this cool dog who rolls into town every week and plays guitar for everybody. And then he becomes a DJ. Like, yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? He's the voice of our generation.
Yeah. And then, Sergio, I feel like you have a question based on KK Slider that I forgot to put on here.
Yeah, definitely. So what is your favorite KK Slider song?
I don't know. I don't know that I have a favorite. Like I think like my mind goes to like KK Jazz probably.
Nice.
Yes.
But there's so many good ones,
There are,
and
yeah.
I know for what I used to do in at least the original, like where you had the tape deck, like I had like 2 or 3 that I would kind of switch between. But I think that's probably the one
nice.
that I think that's I'll go with that.
Cool.
I love that you mentioned KK Jazz, because I've talked about that song a lot, where I've had a love-hate relationship with like the intro to KK Jazz, but then I just love the rest of the song so much. But even now, like I'm leaning toward I like the intro to that one, and just the whole song. It's great.
It's like actual jazz, where it's like you listen to it for the first time and you're like, I don't know about this, but then eventually you're like, oh no, you know what? I get it.
Yeah,
it's like a fine cheese,
Yeah, I've gone through those emotions with that for sure. So follow up to favorite special character. Who is your favorite villager?
So I thought about this one a lot, and I think I'm gonna go with Bob.
Oh, good choice.
Bob was always a favorite of mine. He's in every game, which helps. So I definitely like a lot of the like lazy, like laid back goofball characters, and I feel like he's like the poster child, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he's got it all. He's got that nice purple color, and then cats. Like cats are themselves pretty lazy. They sleep a lot.
Yeah,
throughout the day. So
I'm a cat dad IRL, so I definitely have a bit of a kitty bias there too. But it's funny too because he's been in every town I've ever had.
Oh wow!
So I think that definitely helps put him over. Like in my first town, he he was in the quadrant directly south of my my little 4-house neighborhood thing.
Right.
So yeah, and then like every other game I've played, he's been in my neighborhood. And if he wasn't there in the original role, he's moved there. And I'm always just like, oh yeah, it's my boy Bob.
Yeah, it's crazy how that like happens to people. Like there are over 400 characters that could like pop up in your game, and just like the same one manages to make it to your town. It's insane.
Yeah. Like Olivia is one that I always feel like I end up getting. She was in my first neighborhood as well, and like Ed. Like there's just a few that like I feel like I always end up. Kiki's another one. Like I feel like I get a lot.
You get a lot of cats.
Yeah, man. They're drawn to me, you know.
Yeah, I like them. Cats are fun. Sergio likes dogs.
Yeah, just preference.
Well, in real life, I would consider myself bipedal. You know, like they're all good. You know, they're. I think they both bring very different things to the table. It's just right now I happen to have 2 cats and no dogs, so that's just where I happen to be right now.
Yeah, every once in a while we do a little bit of trivia here, and I like to ask. I put Sergio on the spot every time and ask him to name as many cats as possible, and it's fun to see him struggle. Cool. So let's actually move into talking about New Horizons, because obviously it's going to be a huge game. It's essentially the only game that's remaining for March at this point. What else is getting canceled? But it's going to carry.
We still got Doom.
All right.
Same day,
but not on Switch.
Yeah, that's true.
That one got delayed. But if people are going to play Doom, they're probably not going to choose the Switch to play it. So not the biggest deal, but I
think I'll probably pick up both that day, and when I finally run out of chores to run an Animal Crossing, I'm like, all right, well, time to go kill some demons.
Yeah. What's hilarious about that is like I have a friend. He was the first guest that I had on the show. But funny enough, like Doom and Animal Crossing are his 2 favorite games. So that
what a day! What a day for this man.
Yeah, he's been looking forward to March 20th for so long now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I guess like when you saw New Horizons the first time, like what were your initial impressions of it? Like what did you think of the game when you saw it?
I was pretty blown away. I think obviously Animal Crossing has a very distinct visual style, and there's only like so much they can do to kind of iterate on that without changing the look. But I think that this feels like such a step up graphically, because we're so used to the 3DS graphics, which are terrible. In comparison to the Switch anyway. So I was definitely visually blown away by it, and I really like the setting. I think the tropical island is like a really fun idea because I always kind of associate Animal Crossing with like summer for some reason. I think that was when I played it the most when I was younger, because you got plenty of time off from school, so I was playing. I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna play Animal Crossing for like an hour every day because I can, and I like that setting quite a bit, but I think all of the new stuff that they're adding, like the crafting and all these things that seem like they're going to kind of knock down some of the walls that I feel like have always existed in Animal Crossing, where there's nothing worse than the first time you play an Animal Crossing game, in my opinion, because you play it and you're so excited, and then you run out of things to do in a few hours, and you're like, no, like I have to wait until tomorrow. And the fact that there's all of these, new systems at play that will let you kind of build things on your own and, have a little bit more control over what you're doing, like moment to moment, hour to hour. I think that's really going to enhance the experience of the game and allow you to get even more out of it than we used to.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is too, like it kind of fixes that barrier to entry with the game, because I feel like more and more I've seen people who essentially say like they tried Animal Crossing once and they just didn't get it, and it's hard to really capture that this is a game that you play over several months, it's something that grows with you as you play it. And when you enter that first day and you're able to do basically nothing, it's that point in the game that just like you're either you get it or you're just like, I don't see what the hubbub is about this thing. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
But yeah, like the crafting definitely goes toward that, where it's just like, here is this really big main mechanic that's going to follow you throughout the game. And it essentially like throws you exactly what you're supposed to do right from the beginning. Whereas like, paying off this really huge loan right from the get-go, you're like, what? How am I supposed to earn money? There's only one tool in this thing, and it's a shovel.
Right.
And now I have to send these fossils off to this other museum to get, and it's going to take days to do this? What? So yeah, no, I feel like it definitely speeds up the ability to get into it, and start actually playing.
Right, exactly. And not kind of be hit a roadblock because of randomization in those first few hours and be like, okay, cool, I'm stuck. Because I remember the first time I played the game, I ended up like looking up a guide. Like I went to like cheatcc.com or something like that, or whatever it was back when I was 10 years old, and was looking up like, okay, like how do I get a shovel, or how do I get a thing? And it's like, oh, you have to go to the shop every day, and it's like, so I have to wait a week to get all these tools. Like, so I went and changed the hours on my GameCube clock, got and reset it until I had every tool, and then went back to the actual date and was like, okay, cool, I can actually play now. Like, so the fact that you'll be able to at least get started right away and start like building out your character and kind of at least like setting a foundation for yourself in those first few hours is something I think will allow you to feel like you're being productive a lot quicker and get to the parts that are fun.
Yeah, definitely. And, I feel like over time, the team has definitely taken that into account too. So this whole system seems based around just removing those roadblocks. Kind of, I guess, embarrassing roadblock for me. 'Cause these things just get in the way of some games in general. So like I'm trying to figure out like what are some warnings to get into games, because I'll tell you, Metroid is actually like a big gap for me. Because I tried to play Metroid Prime back in the day, but I did not understand the concept of like Metroidvanias, where you're gonna hit a wall and you're gonna have to go back to some other area and find some things before you can pass through that wall. So to this day, like I hit some wall way back in the day in Metroid Prime, the first one, and then I never played it again.
Yep.
And
I had the
I'm
same kind of problem.
And I'm like, there are people missing out on games because there's just like this stuff that they don't know about these things. And I feel like Animal Crossing maybe has that roadblock for people. And I'm also want to just go back and play Metroid now and finally experience that,
Yeah, and it definitely seems like they are trying to optimize the first few hours of the game so that people can get to the meat quicker and understand what is it that makes this appealing to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, like, I remember my mom would watch me play video games sometimes, and I was really surprised because she'd watch me like play these really bloody fighters and be cheering me on. And then she'd see me playing like Animal Crossing, and she's like, "I just really don't understand what's going on here. Like, why is this fun?"
I remember my dad saying that to me too, where he's like, "Why would you want to play this like game? This is just doing things you can do in real life." And it's like, "Well, I can't." Now as an adult, it's just like, oh man, it's just lets me get away from it, Like,
Yeah. It gives you the escape of like, oh, you can get out of crushing debt and actually own a home.
right.
It gives you, it lets you live out your dreams now.
It's the millennial escapism simulator.
Exactly. Cool. So kind of based on your initial impressions, I wanted to ask, like, what are you most excited about with this game?
Definitely the crafting. I think that's the thing that sounds the most fundamental. That's like really like changing things in a meaningful way. Because I think going into New Horizons, I had the question of kind of like, what do we do from here? Like now that we've done the mayor thing, like how do you up the ante again? And it seems like this is a really, really smart way to do that. And I like that not only do I have the ability to like kind of craft right from the beginning, that like you can kind of fundamentally affect the layout of the island, it seems like, from the beginning. And I like the idea of having a little bit of like a almost like city sim kind of feeling to what's going on. And I think the whole crafting system feels like it's at the core of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, funny enough, like this, I've seen this be a very resistant feature from a lot of the fan base. Like going into it, people were just like, man, I really hope they don't add crafting or, that kind of thing. But I don't know. For me, I'm just like, you know what? I've played every Animal Crossing game. I know kind of how it goes. I know the beats, the steps that they all take, but I was in the same boat as you where I was like, what are they going to do that's different and changes these things up and kind of expands on like what's already there in a way that is good,
Right. And I think in general, I don't like crafting in most games, but this is the kind of game where you want it, I think.
Yeah. I guess why would you say that?
Because the whole point of Animal Crossing is to amass, manage, and utilize resources, and I think giving you the ability to have more control over like if you want to really build out like a specific furniture set, the way you used to have to do that was to like hope that somebody offered it to you, or that it showed up in the shop.
Right.
And giving you the ability to be like, well, I want this. I can go and put in some work and create it myself. Like that is, I think, a good move for Animal Crossing. Because the whole thing is about giving you that ability to like express yourself through your house and your town or your island or whatever, And I think it feels like it's building on a fundamental aspect of Animal Crossing rather than certain games where like just for like the sake of example, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I'm playing through God of War right now, and that game is about action, and the crafting system is like very, very, very simple, and like that's good because it accentuates it, right? It incentivizes you to like explore and find things so that you can become a little bit stronger, but it's not like something where it's a game where I want to just keep moving and it keeps asking me to craft things, or it gives me this option to craft things when I could way more easily just get high quality weapons through progressing the game or completing side quests. Or it doesn't feel like it's tacked on. It feels like it's taking something from the fundamental DNA of Animal Crossing and being like, how do we improve on that? How do we build on that to make it actually have a new hook? Because we've done this 4 or 5 times already, and what makes this the new one?
Yeah, and I think you're definitely spot on with like the previous kind of mechanic was really just like, oh, go to bed, wake up tomorrow, see if the store has what I want this time,
Right,
and
go talk to everybody in the town once, and then I'm done.
Yeah, and then this system just seems like it makes you a more active role in the collector aspect of the game, which now we always talk about. Well, we've often talked about like how we describe Animal Crossing to people who just have no idea what it is, and now I kind of go in that direction of like, oh, it's this game where you move into a place and you collect a bunch of stuff, because I feel like people understand that as fun a lot more easier than just like, oh, you're paying off your mortgage.
Yeah. I mean, it's really about like moving somewhere and making it a home, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So follow-up question, like we know you're excited about crafting. Is there anything that makes you worried about this game?
Not particularly. I think that what I've seen has made me confident, and the fact that they delayed the game without really like making a fuss about it, just being like, hey, we didn't want to crunch, we're taking our time, we're making sure that it's checking all the right boxes. Like, that's all they really need to do. Like, I don't think that the bar for success here is very high. And I don't mean that as like a dig, but it's just like, we only get an Animal Crossing game like every 6 years, and we're just excited by the idea of a new one, let alone one that is seemingly innovating a lot. So as long as these systems that we're excited about don't go belly up, I'm confident that everything else that I like about Animal Crossing I still want, So they don't need to do a lot here to make it knock it out of the park, and it seems like they're doing all the right things already. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be a good game. I think my only real concern is my lifestyle and time has changed so much since the 2 times that I have been at peak interest in Animal Crossing, which was the original and with New Leaf. And am I going to have the time to sink into it that I want to?
Yeah, that's a good mention too, because like I think often about like where I am now versus like when New Leaf came out, where New Leaf came out like just as I was maybe finishing up college, just before that, I guess. And now I'm just like, oh man, I work full time. I'm doing all of these side things all the time, making podcasts and things like that. And I find that I was really surprised looking at like my stats from Nintendo at like that year review thing that I got to play like 40 hours a month. I was like, man, it doesn't feel like I play that much. I'm really surprised. But that was like, the average. And I was just like, man, I feel, how could I? Like, I feel like I maybe play 2 hours a week, if that, But it's a different place to be for the game. And I also remember you talk about your partner on loot pots every once in a while, and I was wondering if she was also excited for Animal Crossing.
So my partner Sarah is a big gamer, and I know that she has expressed a lot of interest in this Animal Crossing, but she's never played one before. She definitely is into slice of life stuff to a certain degree anyway. Like when I got her a Switch, so she has always kind of historically been a PC gamer, but I was kind of like, when we first got together, I was trying to get her interested in the Switch, and she started playing Breath of the Wild, I think for the second or third time on my Switch, and was like, yeah, this is pretty cool, but like I just want to be using a mouse and keyboard, whatever. And we went on a vacation, and I got her to start playing Stardew Valley. And I didn't realize what I was doing when I did that. Like, it clicked with her so hard. And she really got into it. And so I finally was like, all right, cool. I'm going to get her own Switch for her birthday. And then since then, she that's where she plays most of her games now. Like she beat Breath of the Wild on Master Mode after like immediately after beating it the first time. She did 2 run-throughs of Fire Emblem. Like, she's playing The Witcher right now, all kinds of stuff. So like, I know that she is in on the Switch now, and she has interest in it, but I'm wondering if she's gonna bite on it, because she definitely like is such a like gets in one game and plays it for a long time. I could see her getting into Animal Crossing like way later. Like, I don't know if she's gonna pick it up at launch and get in on it with me, or if she's gonna come back to it like a year later and be like, wow, this is great.
Yeah,
I'm hoping I can get her into it.
I hope so too, because it's like I think about games like Smash Ultimate, and I'm just like, man, I know people where this is their very first Super Smash Bros. Game that they've ever played, and I'm just like, to go into that type of entry into a game where it's just like, this is the best it's ever been, and I'm just, I wish I could experience that like it was my first time.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because that's the first Smash game that she really played. Like she's played some of the others like a little bit, but we got her into it when Ultimate came out, and God, she got so good so quick. Like it started where it was like, oh yeah, wow, you're like really good for a new player, and then it's like, oh no, you're better at this than me.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome to see people like just get to experience a game for the first time with all of these new games. I feel like games are like one of those things where it's like, you get like a movie sequel and you're like, it wasn't as good as the first one, but like games just like build on what was there previously so well that I don't get that feeling. I'm just like, man, I love what you did here. It's so much better now.
Yeah, often anyway. Like that's kind of the nice thing with games is a lot of times when you go into a sequel, it's almost always learning from its predecessor in ways that translate to you getting a better and better experience, especially with Nintendo games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not always, but usually.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to know how you felt about the news that we've gotten so far with New Horizons. Do you feel like Nintendo is saying enough? Do you feel like they've been too quiet about it so far?
So like selfishly, I would like there to be more news, but I don't know, and this is kind of something I've said about Animal Crossing for a while. I don't feel like Animal Crossing is a game that you handle the same way as their other IP. Mm-hmm. Because I don't feel like it's a game that previews very well unless you already like it. Because how much can they show of you running around and talking to people and doing errands and doing any of that kind of stuff where it looks like, oh, this is the thing. Like this is gonna get people in the door. Like it's not a game that you market around like hype moments or something like that. Like you market it around systems. And I think looking at this game, like there's not that much that's new, but what's new fundamentally changes the game. And to people like us who are fans, it means a lot. To the average person, it's like, oh, cool, they added crafting, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the more of the game they show, the more likely they are to kind of shoot themselves in the foot, I think, and like overshow. And then people like us who want to go in like and have surprises are going to have everything spoiled for them. And it's not going to really do much for the marketing of the game because the people who like Animal Crossing are going to buy it and evangelize for it anyway.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that for sure. Now I'm kind of thinking of like, oh man, I really got to look back and see how the previous Animal Crossing games were talked about and shown off by Nintendo, right. Because I'm pretty used to getting very minimal news for Animal Crossing. I always talk about like New Leaf. I think it was like a 3-year period waiting for that game, and we saw it maybe 5 times in those 3 years, which, you get games like Smash, which came out 2018, right? The end of 2018. And so I think March, it was shown the first time, and we saw it like maybe 5-6 times within that first year,
Yeah.
And it keeps popping up. Like we keep getting like new Smash info. We keep getting new characters and things. And it's definitely a game you approach differently for different reasons. So I'm kind of wondering, like, now I just want to compare all of the other ones, all of the other Animal Crossing games at least, and see, like, what did they focus on? What were they telling people,
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find some of the old ones, and, like, I remember there being this one from, for the original, that like had this very like 90s kid, and he like yes. closes on a house, and there's like a GameCube very front and center. Like I think it was way focused on the kind of like goofy weirdness of it,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that's kind of the move to some degree,
Yes.
is like you don't want to give too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if anybody knows that kid from that commercial, like, I've put this call out because I want to talk to them in some aspect.
Get this kid on the show.
Yes.
Come on.
So, Yeah, somebody, if you can track them down, let them know that I have a podcast and I want to talk to them.
You gotta find the IMDb page for that that trailer somewhere.
I really hope it exists. Cool. So I guess, we're at this point a little more than 8 weeks away from the game. What are you playing while we wait for the next New Horizons to come out?
Oh, man, I can't wait. So like I said, right now I am playing God of War, which is, I am, as well as being a big Nintendo fan, I'm a big Sony fan. And God of War is one of the few Sony first-party games I never really got around to finishing up. I started playing it when it first dropped, but that was right around the time that my partner Sarah and I first started seeing each other. And, as anyone who's been in a new relationship can tell you, you get distracted. So there wasn't a ton of time for me to tend to my virtual son. And I just, it was a game that I was really enjoying. And I was kind of like, I don't want to play it for an hour at a time here or there. I really want to wait until I have more time to dedicate to it. So now that there's kind of this quiet period between, the end of 2019 and the absolute just hurricane of games coming to hit us in 2020, Animal Crossing, among them. I was like, cool, now's a chance. Like, here's an open moment. I did the same thing with Last of Us in the fall where I was like, oh, there's a breath of fresh air. Cool, I'm going to play a backlog game that I never got around to. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I recommend to people too. I'm just like, there are so many games and I know we're like anxiously always waiting for something. And it makes us forget about like what's in the backlog, what we haven't gotten around to. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there to play.
Yeah, I just have so many games to play right now, like from some stuff that's like older stuff that I should have played by now, and some's just stuff that slipped through the cracks from this year. So it's kind of like with all this news that all these games are getting delayed, I'm like, good, give me time. Give me some space. Give me some breathing room for these. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm essentially waiting. I've got my list of 3 games that I'm like, these are the 3 I'm focusing on until it comes out. But I'm just like, finish Pokemon, Luigi's Mansion 3, and funny enough, Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I haven't finished either.
Oh, nice.
So, you better get started now.
I'm like halfway through but then I got distracted. Luigi's Mansion came out. I only spent like 2 weeks with that before Pokemon came out, and so now I'm just like, these are the 3 games I'm finishing before.
Did you happen to get to the halfway point of the game? We'll say.
I am just before that, I would say.
Okay,
yeah.
So you know what it is.
I know there's gonna be some sort of time skip, but I don't know. Is the thing. Like I've somehow avoided it.
That happens, but you don't. You haven't. Okay, cool. But you're not to there yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, you got so much left.
Yeah, and I always tell myself like, oh, I'm playing. I don't have to go all out on these games, and then I just end up doing it anyways. So all of my units are like way high level right now. I'm getting them. I'm over prepared, I feel.
So wait, were you Golden Deer?
I went with Black Eagles.
Disappointing.
I was really torn between Golden Deer and Black Eagles, and then I ended up doing Black Eagles. And
you decided you wanted to be an imperialist bootlicker. That's fine. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Yeah. Well, that's the one thing I really love about the game, though, too. Like, when you start playing those different paths, at least from what I've heard from, like, other people's experiences of the other houses and stuff, I'm like, oh, man, there's really a lot you don't know about the other houses before you play them.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. And the paths are surprisingly different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the thing I like about it, because I've talked to a friend who like played Blue Eagles first, and he's like, man, I hate, or not Blue Eagles, Blue Lions, and he was like, man, I hate Black Eagles, and I was like, I don't know why, but I have a suspicion as to why.
You'll see.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to get through those. And unfortunately, like if I don't before Animal Crossing comes out, like it's never going to happen.
All other games are dead to me.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what I've made my goals for now. Sergio, is there anything on your list before this game comes out?
Other than Ori 2, which I'm definitely playing early March, I was actually also planning on playing Fire Emblem Three Houses because of, Byleth and the additional house they added. Unfortunately, / fortunately, I recently picked up the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot game for Xbox One. And it is amazing. I'm so
really?
into
Are
it.
you liking it?
Oh, yeah. Every part of it's a lot of fun. Like, even just roaming around collecting stuff. Dang. So it could take a while. I think I'm just going to focus on this one.
Dang, dude. I like kind of forgot about that game, and then all of a sudden everyone's talking about it. I was like, no! This is supposed to be the quiet period. I have like 4 more indie games from last year to play. You're killing me. I had to play Disco Elysium. I bought Outer Worlds. I haven't even opened it yet.
Yeah, they just keep throwing stuff out.
Kakarot's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2020 is gonna kill me, man.
Yeah, what's funny too is I thought this was gonna be like 2019, but everything got pushed kind of to 2020, and I was just like, all right, I thought 2019 was gonna be the best year, but now 2020, that's where it is.
Yeah.
2020 is gearing up to make 2017 look like it was like average.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, and we're all still like waiting for that next Nintendo Direct where they're possibly saying Breath of the Wild 2 is this year. Who knows? But I don't know.
Man, I hope so.
I do too, but I'm also like, I can wait.
Ever since Pixel put that out in the world, I'm just like, oh, it's probably going to happen. Now I don't want it to because Cyberpunk's coming out in September. So if they both come out at the same time, I'll literally die.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. People need to slow down with finishing games.
There's like 10 solid AAA games coming out in 2020, and PS5, and the new Xbox, and maybe we finally get a Switch Pro. Who knows? It's insane though. It's gonna be easy to spend like $2,000 on video games this year, without even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's just going to happen. And then later on, you're going to be like, I regret none of it.
And that's why I didn't go on vacation this year, I guess.
Yeah, who needs that? Besides, like the only place to go this upcoming year is Japan for Nintendo World.
Right.
And it's going to be really packed anyway, so you might as well just play games and wait.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a week off during, like, right after Animal Crossing comes out and be like, I'm going to a tropical island, everyone.
Nice.
There's no reception there. Don't talk to me.
Yeah. Well, Sergio's serious about that. He's already got his 2-week vacation lined up for Animal Crossing.
2 weeks?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I forget. And I'm like, oh man, my vacation's coming up. Oh no, but Animal Crossing too.
This is why you guys are the #1 Animal Crossing podcast on the internet, because that is dedication. You gotta just stream it for like 12 hours a day for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll be there, Sergio. I'll watch them all.
Nice.
Cool. So let's go ahead and move on to answering these 100-day countdown questions. So back, I guess, how many days ago was it now? We started counting down when we were 100 days away from this game. And so every day we've had a new question, and Sergio and I answer them here on the show. But today we're joined by Pete, of course. So we'll go ahead and go through them together. Day 65 was create a new area to which you can travel. And some of these are more geared toward drawing, but we have not drawn these in a while. I drew the first one for the first one of these questions, but not since then. But Pete, what were you thinking for a new area to go to in Animal Crossing?
I would love for them to bring back the like kind of downtown city area that they had of City Folk, but to put it in a good game. That would be my request.
Yeah, that's a good spot. I mean, a lot of people really liked that city aspect, and we're overall kind of underwhelmed by City Folk, with it being like not too much of a game that pushes Animal Crossing any direction, you know?
And
like
the
it was
controls were so annoying.
Yeah, the point and click is not for everybody too.
It's not good.
Yeah.
My arm was tired after playing for 20 minutes. It's like, I can't do this.
You gotta work out to play video games? What is this? Ring Fit Adventure? Yeah, I guess for me, I just came up with like a raw materials island for New Horizons, where you just go and pick up raw materials and maybe make it a dungeon crawler too. Like make it a procedurally generated island that changes.
That's awesome. You know, my answer is actually one of your previous ideas too, Chewy. So all credit to you on this one. But I liked your idea for today as well. But I would want like a water park area that it's basically a water park in the summer, but in the winter it becomes like a mountain resort with snow sports and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, I like that. So day 64, the question was your favorite rover transportation. And oh man, I just read everybody's answers, but we're all the same here.
We all put train because it's the only answer.
Yeah, train.
Nobody wants to ride the bus.
Yeah, have you ridden buses lately? I haven't.
Trains are romantic. They sound cool. Buses, they're usually smelly and cramped. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. Yeah. And taxis, they're expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's why we use rideshare. It's 2020, people.
That's right. Day 63, the question was, what is your favorite museum exhibit? Pete, you followed my lead in I just ranked them.
Yeah, I saw you had done that, so I was like, okay, go ahead, I'll rank them. So I would say number 1 is fossils, 2 is bug, 3 is fish, 4 is art. I always liked the fossils a lot, just because I think dinosaurs are cool. And again, I started playing this when I was 10, so you know, dinosaur fossils were a very, very cool thing at the time. And then, you know, the bugs, I think that's always like the coolest live room, I think, after that. Because there's like all the noise and some of them fly around and everything. Like it has a real, it feels like very alive. The art is really the only one that it's just like, this isn't worth having.
Yeah, I guess for my order, I went bugs, followed by fossils, followed by fish, followed by art. And I mean, I like them all. I think just like overall, I like the variety you get with the bug displays, you know? And then the fossils, I like it mostly because like it's the first thing you fill up. So you get to see it kind of really cool right away. And then I put the art last just because like it's so hard to fill in the art. And then it just looks empty most of the time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So what about you, Sergio?
So for me, I went with the Bugs exhibit first, and the majority of that is because, so personally, I'm pretty creeped out by bugs, but in Animal Crossing, you know, it's a nice controlled area. There's no risk there. You know, the bugs stay where they belong. Basically, they don't bother you, and you can observe them in their habitat, which is pretty cool. So bugs first, then art, then fish, and then fossils. I do like the art because, like you said, Chewy, is a challenge, and I guess that's why, because you know it's very rewarding when you get an actual legit piece that you can add to the exhibit.
Yeah, that's true. It takes a lot of work to get anything in there. So day 62, the question was your favorite version of Nook's Cranny. So Pete, what are you thinking on this one?
I put the original. I love how like ramshackle it is. You know, like it's just this like very lo-fi shack made of like sheet metal, and he's in there with his tiny apron and his like dirt floors, and I that's just how I always think of Tom Nook. You know, is the OG lo-fi version.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I went with Nookway because it's just like so kind of convenient store sterile kind of look to it.
Yeah.
I just like the kind of theme that goes with it. It just feels like you're shopping in a convenience store.
Nice.
So what about you, Sergio?
For me, I also picked the original. I guess you could think of it as like the very first version in whatever game it is. But yeah, even the most original, like the very first one from Population Growing, I completely agree with you, Pete. That's Tom Nook. That's his environment right there with the apron and just that's the first Nook's Cranny you get. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So day 61, the question was, are you planning on having more than one playable character in your town / island I guess. What are you thinking, Pete?
Probably not. I don't ever have more than one character for myself, and unless Sarah decides to, use my town, like there wouldn't really be any reason for me to have two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I put yes, mostly yes, just because, like, I don't know if there's going to be, if there's a limited edition Switch that's Animal Crossing themed, I'm probably going to get it. And if that's the case, like, Jackie, my wife, she's probably, I don't know. I'm torn about whether we're going to be living on the same island or doing our own thing. So, yeah, maybe yes. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, what about you, Sergio?
Most likely I won't because it kind of bothers me to have like a house that is just there, mostly empty. I don't really need the storage space. If they do a lot of cool things with the floor patterns and they also kind of limit you to how many you can have per character, I may think about it, but I'm hoping there's enough floor patterns that you can do with a single character so I don't have to have an extra character that I wouldn't really use for anything else.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people kind of make a second character just for storage reasons. So, yeah. But hopefully, I want storage to really be worked out in this game because I feel like you're supposed to collect everything and have everything. So just give us the room to store it all. So day 60, the question was, design your dream hairstyle. And, I put the note here, usually ask to be drawn. But what are you thinking for your dream hairstyle here, Pete?
So I just want to be able to do my own hair, which is I have an undercut and it's usually dyed blue or purple. You have the ability to do that in, oh my God, I'm blanking on the name of it. The mobile version.
Yeah, Pocket Camp.
Pocket Camp. Yeah, you had the ability to do that in Pocket Camp. So as long as I can look like I did there, I should be good to go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, for me, I just said, please don't make me look like Guy Fieri when I take the personality quiz, because apparently that's my personality, and I don't want it to be.
Take it down to Flavortown.
Yeah, that's...
You gotta name your island Flavortown.
Yep, that's what I gotta do. What about you, Sergio?
I would want the Dragon Ball spiky hair, like the anime character one.
Perfect.
Yeah, if they add that, I would probably go with that for a little while.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
They got to go Super Saiyan 3, though, where it's like the huge mane that goes all the way down to your butt. That's the move.
That's the one.
Yep.
All right, and then the last question for day 59, Nook, saint or sinner? What are you thinking, Pete?
Saint. And honestly, I am tired of this narrative that people try to put out there on the internet that he's some kind of like a slumlord or like a seedy landlord. All right, this guy is an absolute saint. He gives you, a total stranger, a place to live, no money down. He's just like, hey man, just pay it back when you can. It's cool. And then as soon as you pay it off, he's like, hey, you want an extension? He is the chillest landlord ever. Are you kidding me?
It's true. A lot of people just I don't know. I feel like they just have something against him, and I don't know why. But yeah. I said saint as well, and it's because he's all about the money, but he's about using it for the people, I feel like he just invests it back into your place whenever you pay him off,
Yeah, dude, he's helping out the community.
Yeah. What about you, Sergio?
Yeah, I agree. Both of you said it absolutely perfect. I think Saint Nick is actually derived from Saint Nook. So there you go.
You're totally right. Cool. So usually we close out the show with Haken's Islander Corner. For those of you who don't know, we ask our patrons on Patreon a question every single week and then read some of their answers here. This week's question was, are you planning on having more than one playable character on your island? And Sergio, we'll just go back and forth reading them pretty quickly. Do you want to start?
Sure. The first answer is by Layalatron, and he says, no, it's just gonna be me and my town. Visitors are okay, but it's going to be my treasured haven. And I feel like a part of that is because, it gives you more room to put public works, I guess, in New Leaf, but now it's just gonna be whatever you want to decorate outdoors.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then Verity B said, I want at least 2 other characters. Definitely having a witch character somewhere on my island. I can't wait to get creative and possibly have a narrative for my island. And yeah, it's pretty fun when people build like a story around their characters that they make.
That's cute. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's very, very nice. So Deborah Alford says, I will eventually have multiple playable characters. I always use them for additional storage. Yeah, there we go. We don't know if that's going to be an issue, but I mean, even if they add storage just to one player, you can always add more characters and more storage, and we still need it.
Yeah. And then Lynn Slay said, my husband offered to help me gather materials, so he will have a character on my island. I'm really excited to play couch co-op with him. And yeah, I guess something we didn't mention was just like, this is the first game where you can play at the same time as somebody. So
yeah,
it's probably worth at least like trying it out,
Right.
Yeah, please, if I get rope Sarah into just gathering materials for me, I would do that in a heartbeat. That'd be amazing.
Nice. So Noah Young says, I bought my wife a Switch so she would have her own town, but we will both have characters in each other's towns. My friend will also join my wife's because he doesn't have a Switch. That way he can join my streams when he comes over. Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
You can have like multiple players in multiple towns. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then Quantrell Taval said, yes, my wife will share the island with me, and I plan to have non-playable characters based on our 4 dogs. They'll all live in tents in one of the upper corners of the beach. Hopefully, there will be there will be dog costumes to dress them up in similar to animal costumes seen in New Leaf and Pocket Camp.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. I've visited Quantrell's New Leaf town, and he really goes all out with like putting different buildings and facilities around and making it feel like a full town for sure.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess before we close out with our announcements, Pete, where can everybody find you?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. It was a great time, and I'm always happy to be able to talk Animal Crossing. If you guys want to come talk Animal Crossing with me, you can follow @loud_Pete on Twitter or Instagram. You can go find me on my podcast, The Potscast, over on lootpots.com, and anywhere that you get your podcasts for the most part. And if we're not somewhere where you would like us to be, let us know, and we'll get there. And we do all kinds of other Nintendo content over on lootpots.com, so go follow @lootpots if you want to keep up with the news and reviews and all that kind of stuff. And you can also go check out my comic book podcast, The Comics Pals, anywhere podcasts are available. We're there, and it's a great time. So I hope you'll come check out some of my stuff.
Awesome. That sounds great. And yeah, thanks for joining us on the show. It's fun to have you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime, guys. If you ever need another third chair, let me know.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast. Don't want the episode to end? Well, you can keep the conversation going by Nintendo switching over to our Discord. Just follow the link in the description, and you can talk with other people who love Animal Crossing as much as you do, including Sergio and me. Want to support the show in a bigger way and get your voice heard during the show? Visit patreon.com/ChewyPlaysNintendo. You can support our show with just $1, have an episode dedicated to you, get special access to a secret room on Discord, join in on the Haken Islander Corner, and even read a monthly newsletter covering all things Haken and Chewy Plays. We really appreciate the support and put your money toward great things on the show. Tuned in on YouTube, the comments are a great place to let us know your answers to the Haken Islander Corner. Are you planning on having more than one playable character on your island? If you dig what you hear, please KK slide over to that review section on your platform of choice. Let people know what they're missing out on. Haken is a wild production brought to you by Chewy, Sergio, and all of our patrons. We thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great week.
Goodbye, everybody.
Take it easy.